What's up guys, it's Brad from That Architect here. In this video, I'm going to be going through a scene breakdown of the first shot in our recently uploaded CityBuilder3d Industrial trailer. This video is not really a tutorial, but more of a scene breakdown showing the general setup inside of Blender and then the simple compositing process inside of After Effects. Anyways guys, let's get started. Here we are inside of Blender. This is our general scene setup here. On the right side here we have our camera view, and on the left side is our general scene setup. As you can see, this specific shot setup is very simple. To start off, we just have a very simple background plate. If I go to rendered view, you can see that it's simply a background photo of a road with a very cold feel to it and a very cloudy background. And if we go to camera view on this side as well, you can see that it's just filling up our frame so that we just have a nice background for the rest of our assets here. Behind our camera here, we've added a black plane here, and that's just to use as negative fill to create some shape on our assets. As I've mentioned in previous videos, negative fill is simply a technique where you block the light coming from the direction of the camera so that the scene and 3D assets have a little bit more depth to them. I'll put a link in the description on how to use this specific concept a little bit more effectively. But anyways, that's what we've done here. As you can see, just a black plane here in the foreground and then a background plate of this cloudy photo. And all this cloudy photo is, if you want to add these to your scene, I've just used the import images as planes option to import a nice background photo that I thought was nice off of pixabay.com. And then under the shading properties of this plane, I've turned it into an emission layer for the material output so that the photo isn't really being lit by the rest of the lights and HDRIs in our scene, but is more of just an emission plane of the photo itself. So that's how you would add that background plate. And then obviously in the foreground here, we just have some of our assets from the CityBuilder3d Industrial pack. As you can see here, if we open up the right window, we can see all of the different industrial assets that we've added. We have a nuclear reactor building, which we've added here. We have some warehouses, a bunch of factories, a nuclear cooling tower, and some power lines. And then in the foreground here, as you can see on the right side, I've added our industrial pipeline. So I have about 6 or 7 of the 15 industrial assets in that CityBuilder3d pack used in this scene here, and I've just duplicated a few of these and kind of rotated them to place them off into the background here of the field of view for our camera. Super simple setup. I wanted to create some nice leading lines in the scene here, as you can see on the right side. So I used the pipes in the foreground to kind of lead the eye to our background here, and then I've also done the same thing with our power line assets and just kind of created some more depth. And as you can see here on the top of our frame, we just have some power lines going through the foreground of our shot. So just another way to add some more layers in your scene. For the camera animation, I've simply just animated the camera moving forward throughout the course of our scene, kind of just a very slow push in, nothing really too complex, so no need to use our cable cam cinematic movement rig for this specific shot. But that's essentially the gist of it. For lighting the scene, I've simply under our world settings here, I've added an HDRI from HDRIhaven.com. Lots of great HDRIs there. I've just added a very simple cloudy HDRI to match the background plate of the photo that we added in our background so that things would blend a lot better. And then I've just decreased the strength of that HDRI to 0.8 for a little bit less light hitting our scene. Finally, to output and composite our animation more effectively, I've rendered out a mist pass in our layer properties tab here, as well as a combined beauty pass for our main pass. And I'll get into these layers in the compositing process inside of After Effects here in a second. But as you can see here, to export our mist pass under the compositing panel here, I've simply exported our mist pass output to another file output. And then of course I've exported our main image to our composite node, which will go to our main output here. Anyways guys, inside of After Effects is where I did all my compositing once I rendered out those 2 animation passes inside of Blender. And this is where a lot of the magic happened for these specific shots. So as you can see here we are inside of After Effects. This is our final composite here. We have some nice snow, some atmospheres that we've added, and of course we're utilizing both our beauty pass of our assets assets as well as the mist pass to add a little bit of depth to the scene. So I'll just go ahead and go through this shot layer by layer to show what I've done here. So starting off, we just have our very basic beauty pass render. Nothing crazy going on here yet, just our very basic shot pushing through our environment. This next layer that I added was our mist pass. So as you can see here, when we enable it, it's going to add some nice procedural mist to our scene. And as you can see here, if we isolate the layer, this is what the mist pass is doing. As you can see here, it's just adding more mist the further into the background that the assets go. And then I've just used, under the transform option here, the opacity to kind of control how much mist I wanted to add to the scene. So as you can see here, under the opacity setting, I've kept it at 40% to just dial back that mist a little bit. I've also changed the layer mode of our mist pass to screen, and that's not really necessary, but I've just played around with different layers and found the one that provided the best result for me. Alright, so after our mist pass, I've added a variety of atmospheric elements here. As you can see here, if we enable them by themselves and maybe isolate them, just a whole bunch of mist elements here, and I blurred them under the effects panel so that they're not quite as noticeable in our scene. And in addition to blurring them, I've also animated them to move across our camera as the shot plays out. So as you can see here, if we play through it, just super basic atmospheres going past the camera. A very rudimentary effect, but in my opinion, it's just a nice way that you can add some depth to your shot. As you probably know, a lot of real world elements are not as uniform as we would expect in the computer, so adding these atmospheres is a nice way to break up that mist pass and give it a little bit more realism. Finally, after adding our mist pass, I've added a snow layer here, and I've just used the CC snowfall effect inside of After Effects here. As you can see here, I've used 70,000 flakes with a size of 4, and then added some variation to their size. And then one of the main things I did that add a lot more depth to the snow was increase the scene depth here. So as you can see here, you can kind of play around with the particle system to get the style of snow that you want. But I definitely think that playing with the scene depth added that three-dimensional aspect to our snow particle system here. So feel free to play around with a lot of these settings if you are using After Effects for your compositing. And as you can see here, also I've added some wind to our snow, and you can easily change the direction of your wind to get some variation in your results. But most of the time I kept it at 100 to kind of create that windy feel. And then I'm also making sure to keep the wind blowing on the snow the same direction as our atmospheric elements are being animated in the scene. So just keep that in mind, that you want to make sure that all of your elements are interacting within your scene in a way that makes sense. But yeah, that's essentially it for the specific shot. For the last layer, since in Blender I rendered out a very flat filmic look, it's important to add some basic color correction to bring some life back into your scene. As you can see, I've just used a Lumetri color effect, and I've used the Fujifilm look, which I think adds a nice film look to the scene and was definitely nice for the industrial look of this specific trailer. But after that, I've just added a basic letterbox to bring everything together and got this final result. Anyways guys, that's it for this video. I hope it provided some insight on how you can composite some of your own elements together. As always, feel free to leave a comment if you have any questions or suggestions in the comment section below, and I'll see you next time.